G'day everyone, welcome back to the channel. As you can see, it's a really nice fall day here in Saskatchewan. I'm at Chimney Coulee today, a very historic site near East End, Saskatchewan. And I thought what we would do today is check out some fall foliage, or as foliage, as Marge would say. Marge Simpson, that is. We'll check out the foliage. But today is really all about the DJI Mini 2. I've had it for about 6 months now, and I thought you guys might like to know how I'm getting on with it, what I like and what I don't like. So how about we get started on that right now. First, I'm going to take you back to my car here, and we're just going to have a look at the camera bag and shoo the flyaway. Now, this is my Mindshift Backlight Elite 45L. I bought this earlier this year. I was sick and tired of cheap camera bags that didn't work for me, so I went ahead and I pushed the nuclear option and got the most expensive thing I could afford. And so far that's been a good decision because this has handled everything I've thrown at it and then some. But as you can see, the DJI is right up in there. And what I like about this bag is you can either put it in there like that, but it also fits like this. I don't like to do it this way because it puts a little more stress on the drone. But that's where it lives. And as you can see, I've got the batteries for it here. And I've also got the remote, extra batteries for the 2 SLRs, and memory cards. This leaves me with plenty of space for the rest of my gear. As you can see, the D800 is right here. The Z50 lives right here. I've got extra 18650s for my flashlights and the gimbal, because they both take the same cells. I've got my filters right here. I've got my Peak Design strap thingy for the Z50 down at the bottom here. I've got the SMDV remote for the D800 down there. I've got 3 Neewer app control lights down in here. And that leaves the whole rest of the bag for the good lenses. There's my gimbal acting up again. Anyway, here's my 85mm f1.4 FTZ adapter is right down in here. I can't get it out because it's kind of trapped in there right now. This is the Sigma 14mm. It's a giant lens, but this case just swallows it. Here's my 20mm Nikkor. And right now the D800's got the other Sigma lens on it, the 24-70. And right up top here, we've got one of my new Noctagon MSR D18 lights, which I just got a few days ago to replace my failed Fireflies light. And I got 2 of those. I've got one at 4500 Kelvin color temperature, and the other one's 2700, I do believe. And that one's up in the top compartment of the case, which I'm not going to show you right now because this is about the drone. Now, what do I like and what do I like about this little guy? Let me pull it out first. And we'll make a little platform and just talk about it real quick. Okay, the first thing I really like is the size. It's tiny, and I do mean tiny. My hand is 8.5 inches long. As you can see, I can just about hide the drone behind it. That's what I like about these micro drones. Not only are they legal to use without registration or license, they just go away when you need them to. And that's the best part, I think. Now, what's the worst part? Well, gotta be honest, it's that there camera. It is a 12 megapixel camera, and it's about the best quality you can get in a sensor the size of that sensor, but it's still just over ½ an inch large. So there's only so much quality you're going to get from that. I like to describe it as a cell phone camera that flies. And it's the flying part that's important, because without the flying part, it's really not such a good camera. And sorry to those of you who have one and really like it, but I am used to that kind of a sensor. That's a full-frame DSLR. Even though it's 9 years old, the 36 megapixel sensor in this is far superior to what's in the DJI. And it's also superior, well, maybe not quite so superior as to what's in the Z50. But even the Z50 is quite a bit better than the drone sensor. So I find myself not using the still photography features of the drone very much. I use it for what it's best at, which is video. Even though it doesn't do 4K 60, it still does a great job with video, I find. So that's basically what I use it for most of the time. Within the next little while, I hope to start getting this out after dark and start doing, or attempting to do, some more after dark shooting with it, but I'm not really holding my breath that I'm going to be very impressed with it. For serious photography, I think I would very much like to upgrade this. I don't know what I would upgrade it to yet, but I've mentioned in previous videos that I've got my eyes on the Air 2S and the Autel Evo 2 Pro, and I'm still not sure which one of those I'd prefer. So, what to talk about now? Yes, let's talk about batteries. I bought the Fly More combo, and I'm just going to say this right now: if you're eyeing one of these drones, just go ahead and do the Fly More. It does work fairly well and run fairly long with one battery, but trust me, you are going to run out of battery. You are going to wish you had more batteries. And this is just too convenient. It acts as a power bank when you don't use the drone, so you can charge your phone off this thing. And I have done that. It works really well for that. Now, the remote. Is there anything I'd really like or don't like about this remote? Not really. It is a little bit of hassle, I find, to get my iPhone XS Max on this thing, because it's got a Jetec case on it that sort of gets hung up on this little black plastic piece there. But once you get it on there, it doesn't go anywhere. So it works quite well. Now, I think maybe I'd best get my phone on there, and maybe we'll unwrap this thing and start getting it ready for action. Back in a sec. Okay, here we go. As you can see, I've got the phone on the remote, and if you're concerned about the remote pressing the buttons on the iPhone, it's never really been a problem. It looks like it presses the button, but it doesn't. So don't worry about that. Now, before we get into the app too much, I want to come over here and show you how I usually launch this drone. Because I kept losing all of my launching pads, I've taken to just doing this right off the sunroof of the car. It works well enough. And usually when I land it, I don't bother with this at all. I just catch it in my hand. And I'm not sure if I'm up to showing you that process or not, because it's a little convoluted and a little hard to do. But there is a way to just land it in your hand and just sort of catch it. It takes practice, but it works fairly well. Now, I should probably tell you that I do change blades on this whenever I feel like I need to. Not too long ago, I was using it and I tried to catch it in my hand and I sort of missed, and one of the props hit my fingers. And so I instantly put new propellers on there because I really don't want to take the chance of losing the drone. Even though it's not the most super expensive drone out there, you just don't want to throw away $750 just like that. So yeah, make sure you have lots of props. That's one of the advantages of the Flymore kit. You get lots of props with it. And I'm probably going to order some more because I can just see myself messing up some more props. So, I think what I'm going to do now is take the Z50 off the Weebill and put it on the tripod just so I can sort of use it as an audio capture device while I mess around in this app a little bit. Because I'm going to turn on screen recording in there, and I'm going to show you exactly how I like to have the app set up and the settings I like to have and that kind of thing. So I will be right back. Okay, we're back. And I've got the Z50 aimed right at the drone on top of the car. And I've got the drone aimed right at the trees to the northeast a little bit. And I hope that this screen cap is working right, because I've never used it on this phone before. But I guess we shall see. Now let's talk about the app a little bit. What I like to do is have it in Pro mode all of the time on all of the modes, whether it be quick shots, video, or photography. And you do that down in this corner. See, I've just set it to auto there, but we'll go back to Pro mode because I like having full control over my cameras at all times. Now what you got to realize about this app is you have different quality settings for each mode. So if you change one thing in video mode, it's not going to carry over to the other modes. So I'll just show you right here. I'll go to quick shot mode. Well, I guess I can't right now because it's not in flight, but you get the idea. This is photo mode. And I like to have this AEB turned on. That's auto exposure bracketing. That way, if I'm a little bit underexposed or a little bit overexposed, I can just pick one of the three exposures that work for me. And the other thing is, let me see here. That's not where I want it. Oh yes, down here. I keep it in J plus RAW all the time. That means JPEG plus DNG RAW, because I like to have full control over my post-processing as well. As you might expect from being a photographer for years, I just don't like to have automatic exposures at any time, really. Now, another thing you want to be aware of is white balance. I leave this off of auto all the time because what happens is if you're taking a video somewhere, you will find that as the drone moves around, it's going to shift white balances all the time. And usually I don't like that. I'm going to leave it at 6100 or so for today because I kind of like how that looks. Well, maybe not. That's actually not quite tracking with what I'm seeing in person. So yeah, let's just leave it at 5500. Anyway, the other thing I like to do is make sure my ISO is at 100 as often as possible, because that's where your best quality is with this sensor. You can go to 200 or 400 if you need to, or even higher. This thing goes all the way to 3200, but like I said, half-inch sensor, you're just not going to get much quality out of it. You're going to get grainy footage at anything over 100, so try to leave it in 100 as often as possible. Now, shutter speed. Now, if you're real careful about your shutter speeds, like you want to use the 180-degree shutter rule, which I might cover in a different video, but not today. This is entirely dependent on where you have your frames per second set. If I wanted to use 180-degree right now, I would have to do 1/60, because that's double the 30 frames per second I'm going to be shooting at. But as you can see, this completely overexposes everything. You can see all these zebra lines here. That's the area that's clipped and overexposed. So I'm just going to bring this back down to something sane. I like a little bit of highlights blown out in the shot because you can often recover those in post, but because I'm facing away from the sun right now, I know it's going to be overexposed anyway, so we'll go for 1/1000 today. But yeah, if you want to use the 180-degree rule, then you have to put ND filters on this wee little camera, and I'm just not doing that, guys. You've seen how big my hands are. I cannot get my hands around that tiny little gimbal, so I'm not going to do it. Anyhow, quality. Let me see, where do I change that again? I'm still getting used to this drone, guys, so... yes, I'm still in photo mode, that's why I'm not finding what I want. Let's go to video. We're going to shoot 4K 30 today. And as I mentioned before, if I wanted to use the 180-degree shutter rule, I would need 1/60 shutter speed, and that's just not feasible today. So how about we get this drone in the air and look at some foliage?
Take off.
Okay, here we go.
The home point has been updated.
I'm going to try and do a picture-in-picture thing. There we go. Let's just take a look around real quick. There's our clipped highlights. That's fine. It is a little windy today, I'll admit, but we should be okay. I've had this drone out in conditions that you would never think would work, but somehow it manages. And we'll just go over here a little bit, over the road. And I'm going to make it hover in place while I talk about the app some more. Okay, I'm in the settings now. I like to use this allow upward gimbal rotation. That way you can rotate it upwards a little bit to see things that are above the drone. I don't use that very often, but it's nice to have. I don't use the gimbal calibration much or advanced gimbal settings. I like to turn on the phone charging because this really sucks the battery out of the phone. I leave stick mode alone. And in order to recenter the gimbal, I have my function button set for doing that. I just used it right there. Now, camera. Video subtitles, I don't even know what that does really. You can use the histogram, which puts your histogram right in the center there. And you can just sort of see how that changes. Right now everything's pretty well centered, which is where I like it. And I'm just going to have it shoot some video while we're talking about it here. And we're going to go back in here. Now, not to worry, if you get into trouble with the wind, it will tell you that you're getting windy and you gotta start taking care. Now for grid lines, I leave it in the center one all the time because it just helps me with a shot. I don't find the diagonal one very useful. White balance, like I said, always in manual. Auto sync with the phone, that's fine with me. And I like to turn on this cache because if you ever lose your drone, then you've got some video footage on your phone. And my XS Max is the 512 version, so I've got plenty of space. And I'm looking at upgrading it soon, but not right now. Now this transmission stuff, I just pretty much leave it alone. Well, there's really nothing in there, so. And this is sticking me to the wrong. There we go. And I'll turn off the thingamajigger again. Now, as far as flying modes, I am almost all the time in cine mode. Because when you have a drone that you can't control the aperture on, and you don't have any way to drop your shutter speed to the 180-degree shutter rule, then you kind of have to do that. Because otherwise the drone will move too fast for you. And we're just going to do a nice little flyover and see the foliage. I don't see any issues with the trees right now, so I'm not going to worry about that. And you can just see it getting into the battery right now. It's at 73%. And we're kind of losing the signal a little bit, but I've really not had any problems with that, so I'm not that worried about it. Let's go up a little bit. We'll turn her around. And we'll move the gimbal way down there. Take some overhead shots like this. We'll just bring her back to where we are. And it looks real jittery on the phone. That's one reason it's really nice to be able to do the 180-degree shutter rule. So this is also why I kind of like not shooting in 60 frames per second, because it's just not ideal for me. But this drone cannot do 4K 30, so we got to make do. And there's me in the car. I'll just wave at the camera here. And I'll check if the Z50 is still recording, and it is. And you can probably hear it now. I'm making it record this the whole time. And actually what I would like to do is check out these trees across the way, because I have never been over there. It's not part of the Chimney Coulee site, so. We've got a car coming, so I'll just aim down at the road here real quick. And I think actually we're going to conclude the video here because they're coming this way, so point you this way, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.